Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Forgotten Favorites, of course, the show that we're doing each and every day throughout the month of August, where we take a look at a cool rarity, obscurity, unknown album, maybe a not really talked about release from a more notable band, but these are mostly some of the more obscure stuff from my collection that are definitely favorites of mine. By a lot of people, they might be unknown or completely forgotten, but in my mind, nothing is ever forgotten, right? So, but these are definitely favorites of mine. So today we're going to take a cool look at, this is actually a Finnish band, and this CD that I'm going to show you is actually a collection which contains their first two albums released in 1975 and 1976. So I'm talking about the band called Finnforest. Look at that CD cover there, right? If that doesn't bring you all the way to Finland in 1975, right? I haven't been there, but I'm assuming based on what I've heard, that's kind of, it's got this kind of Scandinavian sort of feel to it, Norway, Sweden, Finland, right? That sort of thing. So this is an all-instrumental band. This album, like I said, contains two albums. Their first and second. They released actually 3 studio albums. The first is simply titled Finnforest from 1975. The second is titled, and all this stuff is in Finnish, so hopefully, Lähtö Matkalle, I believe is how it's pronounced. Lähtö Matkalle. Lahto, and then the second word is Matkalle. You got both complete albums here on the CD, which was released by the Laser's Edge back in the mid-90s, I think. Got to have had the 1996, actually. I've had this, I bought this shortly after Ken released it, Ken Golden from the Laser's Edge. And maybe, Ken, if you're watching, you can chime in with some additional information that you might have on this band, either in the chat or in the comments below. So this is a different lineup on both of the albums here. On the debut, you got the two brothers, Pekka Tegelman, on all sorts of guitars, bass and fuzz bass. You've got Jussi Tegelman on drums. Those are the two brothers. And then you got Jukka Rissanen on organ, grand piano, electric guitar, synthesizer. I believe he was using the ARP synthesizer, or the ARP, however they like to say that. That's for the debut. On the second album, we've got, of course, the brothers Tegelman once again. You got Jarmo Hayakala on bass and fuzz bass, so he's handling all the bass now, whereas Jussi now is handling all of the, Pekka is handling all the guitars. And then you've got Jukka Linkola on electric piano, grand piano, synthesizer, and organ. So as such, the years that these two albums came out in 75 and 76, and it's all instrumental. You can bet your money, you can bet the house that there are a lot of classic prog as well as fusion influences on these albums. You would be correct in that assumption. This is fine music. It definitely has that kind of Finnish feel to it. This doesn't sound like a British or American production. And that's the charm of it. But there are similarities to a lot of the bands, obviously, that these guys were probably idolizing. So on the fusion front, you get a little Mahavishnu, a little Return to Forever, certainly some Weather Report, certainly some very early Stanley Clarke. A lot of the kind of bass lines and bass grooves and melodies and things like that will remind of that first Stanley Clarke album, or even Journey into Love. All right, that kind of moody, atmospheric thing, or actually some of the latter period Return to Forever as well. So yeah, I think those first couple of Stanley Clarke albums, as well as Return to Forever, you hear a little Lifetime in here. You get a little bit of Larry Coryell's 11th House, maybe a little bit of I think I already mentioned Weather Report. That's what I was thinking. Yep. And then you've got definitely little bits of Gentle Giant and maybe Yes thrown in, little King Crimson. It's definitely moody. There's lots of good interplay between the keyboards and the guitar. There's, like I said, there's the ARP synthesizer, and I believe there's some Mini Moog on here as well. Lots of Hammond organ, which is pretty cool. Electric piano. The guitars are nice and just kind of sinewy, and I love the way the guitars and the keyboards weave around each other. But the bass is really important to this music as well. So not only do you have the bass and the drums forming the really tight rhythms here, but there's an airiness to the album. And then when that fuzz bass comes in, again, I'm reminded of very early solo career of Stanley Clarke on here. which is pretty cool, and a lot of good tracks. You've got, most of them are, especially on the first album, all the tracks are fairly short. You got Mika Yo is the first song. That's quite good. I also like Hapeya, which I guess they have the English translations here too. I could probably read that to you. Hapeya, which means oxygen. Track number 3. Kunes, which means till, I believe, something like that. Yep. And then Alan Vaikto, the change of the wave, really cool. I really like the first album quite a bit. I almost think I like the second album a little bit more. I don't know. They're both really good. There's less tracks on the second album, Lähtö Matkalle. You've got, it kicks off with Alpha, and then Elvin. They're both pretty lengthy, 8 minutes and change. You've got Dawn, which is 4 and change, and then you got the 2-part title track, which is pretty damn amazing. You've got part 1, which is Lähtö Matkalle 1, which means starting a voyage. That's apparently what that means, what that word means. Part 1, which is 8 and change, and then part 2, which is starting a voyage. Part 2, which is just under 11 minutes. So roughly about 20 minutes worth there on the 2-part title track. Pretty intense. This, I haven't, I've had this for a long time, obviously, but I hadn't listened to this in quite some time. I don't think I've played this in 5 years, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I was just kind of going through some of my CDs and looking for stuff to pull out for a show like this, and this is definitely a forgotten favorite because I've forgotten all about this album, and this is not anything to be forgotten. So for all you folks watching who love like 70s prog and fusion, I do want to mention Camel a little bit too. If you like the early Camel stuff, predominantly their instrumental stuff, I think you'll totally dig this as well. That is one band I did want to mention. And there are some quirky kind of Canterbury things on here as well too for all you National Health and Caravan fans in Hatfield in the North. But for the most part, this is more of like a fusion album, okay? It's not overly jazzy, so it takes from the prog camp and from the jazz fusion, kind of puts them together. Definitely really, really good stuff here. Finch is another band that might come to mind, the great instrumental Dutch band, as well as Focus. All right, so if you like a lot of those bands that I mentioned, it's not like they sound derivative, but there are elements that if you like that stuff, you'll totally like this as well. So Finnforest, this is the collection. Like I said, it's got both of their first 2 albums on there. They do have a third one, which came out a couple of years later, but these 2 are widely regarded as their best. There you go. It's an old Laser's Edge copy. Ken, I don't know if you're still offering this, or if this is probably long out of print, I would guess. And I don't know whether you can get the 2 albums that are contained on here by themselves. But I would highly urge you to go out and listen to these albums. And if you're, like I said, if you're interested in 70s instrumental music on the fusion and prog side, this is an absolute winner, folks. Not to be missed. Finnforest from Finland, of course. Thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Stay tuned tomorrow for another forgotten favorite. But coming up tonight, we have, of course, after a 1-week break, we've got In the Prague Seat. Tonight we have George Lamy, Anthony Ferraro, Chuck Lamy, and Stephen Reed. We're going to be talking about our favorite prog and fusion releases from 1975, that magical year that was 1975. So stay tuned for that tonight. And then tomorrow is, of course, What's Hot with Sea Tranquility Day. We got some new releases for you. Got the new Night Ranger queued up for you guys, as well as the new, I think I'm going to hopefully get to the new Saint-Tropez. And a cool archival release. I'm going to try and get to Packed as well. That may have to be held for next week, but that is the brand new Moon June release featuring Percy Jones, Alex Skolnick, Kenny Grahowski, and Tim Motzer. Very cool, avant-garde, kind of jazzy, proggy type of instrumental thing that just recently came out. So we got lots of stuff. I got new releases from Tantric and Focus and Keith Emerson. Oh man, I got a stack of stuff here. All sorts of cool things to talk about in the upcoming weeks. So stay tuned for that and more here on the channel. Thursday, we've got the Monsters Den, another cool special show, a ranking show where we've got Mike Portnoy, as well as Dan Brown and Jamie Laszlo and myself are going to rank our 5 favorite David Lynch thrillers. Very cool director who's got some really interesting, some might call very weird films. So we have been watching our David Lynch filmographies, and we have ranked our 5 favorite films. This was a tough one. So it's coming up Thursday night. And then Friday morning, of course, back at the Funhouse with Martin Popoff and myself, where Friday will also be a Ranking the Album show, where we are going to rank the albums of new wave of British heavy metal act Witchfind. So stay tuned for that. And then this weekend, we've got album homework assignment. Armando Venditti, along with Eric Porter, are going head-to-head. We'll see what their assignments were and what they thought of them coming up on Sunday. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Please also click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content. If you want to make a donation to the channel, please consider clicking on the Ko-Fi link below. All of your donations do go to buying more music to talk about and discuss and rant over and rank and all that sort of thing. So that's what we kind of do with that, as well as we've got the link to our merch page with all sorts of great Sea of Tranquility t-shirts and hoodies and hats and caps and mugs and stickers, and we've got all for the various shows as well as my other channel, Comic Book Geezers, and of course the link to seaoftranquility.org, the webzine that has now been on the air for 20 years here in 2021. So thanks for watching, everybody. I am Pete Pardo. We'll see you later on in the Prog Seat. Bye-bye.